You can also use the teleport function to interact with those who have been personally affected by the conflict. To do that, aim the teleport beam at a red or white circle on the ground, then release. Try it.
We are in the room of Never Again, a process of memory that shares the story of the armed conflict from the victims' perspectives. It's a project that was created with the principal aim of honoring our loved ones, reclaiming the value of their lives, sensitizing and shedding light on the conflict for those here in this region, as well as for those who visit us.
You can also pick up objects by moving next to them, touching them with a controller, which will then be outlined in yellow, and pressing and holding the trigger button on the underside of the controller. Try it.
My name is Amanda Suarez. Welcome to this space. Here, in the room of no more, it's a space where victims
The flowers are our way of showing how we've managed to overcome hard situations. As women, many of us have been able to take charge of a number of projects. We don't just stay.
Once you have unlocked 10 pieces of content inside this space, you'll move on to the Restorative Justice Circle. Now feel free to explore.
We are in front of the photo wall of those who fell during the war and those who were disappeared. This wall has a very deep meaning, and that is to reclaim the names of the victims, those who were murdered. This wall features people from across a broad spectrum, innocent people, boys who because of their personal circumstances belong to one group or another. But there is something very special that was taken into account when putting these photos together. To mix them up, not divide them into categories by the groups that caused the damage.
Here we have the space that represents those who were disappeared. We have the symbol of the mass graves, and these people were victims whose remains were found and delivered to their next of kin. What was the aim of including this piece in? Here we have the space that represents those who were disappeared. My name is Gloria Quintero. We are here in the room of Never Again.
The object
in
we are
Granada,
looking at
Antioquia.
is one of the
A
memory
memorial
journals
space
written by
built
people
the
from
victims,
nearby
where we
localities
have
here in
part
Granada.
of their stories
These were
and
made
their
as
family
part of a
stories from
reconstructive
the conflict.
memory exercise using books to chronicle.
The voice of the victim resounds and ought to be heard. There is a country where it echoes in every corner.
We are in the room of Never Again.
Process of construction and the conception of the room. This proposal came about as a vital need for the community to give a voice to its victims, but not from statistics. The room of Never Again instead a process of reconstruction of the memories of stories. We're used to relying on the photographs of our disappeared and deceased, but what... In 2016, the Colombian government and the country's largest left-wing rebel guerrilla group, the Armed Revolutionary Forces of Colombia, or FARC, signed a historic peace agreement to end over 5 decades of armed conflict that has ended the lives of over 200,000 people and displaced an estimated 5 million. Many of these are now registered as victims and are seeking compensation as a chance for a new beginning. But the label of victim is problematic, denying agency to those who've already lost so much. Many survivors, often mainly women, are actively seeking to heal the wounds of the past through acts of reconciliation and restorative justice, usually centered around a community space, serving as a living museum to honor the disappeared. One such space is the Room of Never Again, El Salón de Nunca Más, in Granada, Antioquia, about 2 hours east of Medellín, which was caught between guerrilla and paramilitary forces during the height of the conflict in the late 1990s.
For example,
By
when you
moving
watch
around
the
the
news
space and
and
interacting
something
with its
doesn't
collection,
interest you,
we invite you to meet
change
the
the
locals who explain their connection to the
This
museum.
chest of the memory is the
My name
project
is
of a
César Giraldo.
psychosocial
I'm one of the
organization from 2014 carried out by a...
Now that you've had a chance to look around, head to the doorway marked Abramos la Puerta de la Paz to experience a restorative justice session for yourself.
My name is César Giraldo. I'm one of the operations managers in the county of Meta. ALO is a humanitarian anti-landmine organization, and we're in charge of clearing...
In this museum, we have been very careful about showing instruments of war. Over the course of the armed conflict, we crossed the limits in terms of international human rights standards of using unconventional weapons. One of those weapons was a car bomb that exploded in the center of the town.
Now let's visit a different community near Cocona, a few hours away from Granada, where they're piloting a process of reconciliation that had never been attempted before in Colombia. Following a similar restorative justice model used in Rwanda after the genocide, a small group of people, victims, former guerrillas and paramilitaries, have come together to share their stories and begin a real process of reconciliation and peace.
My name is Nancy Marin, the Program Director for Restorative Communities, a program that is implemented by the Prison Fellowship of Colombia through the German Foundation Careers of Hope, in partnership with the local authorities in different municipalities. We have been working on this program. Restorative Communities is a program that implements restorative justice and promotes meetings between victims and offenders or victimizers. We are implementing it in areas affected by the violence around the country. Today, we are in the district of San Lorenzo, a district that's found in the municipality of Cocorná, which has suffered every type of hardship from the war: displacement, massacres, tortures, landmines, and precisely where we are now is where we started to implement the program and to set up meetings. To generate instruments for reconciliation using a methodology that is called Peace Sycamore 3, promoting meetings between victims and victimizers without making the distinction between them. They are equal participants in the process, and we are in San Lorenzo in one of those meetings. The methodology is implemented through 8 lessons or seasons.
Welcome to this restorative justice program, known as the Sycamore Tree Initiative. My name is Renzo, and I'll be leading today's session. The Sycamore Tree project began 8 years ago here in Colombia. A pilot program was completed in the Bella Vista prison. Sycamore Tree exists to raise awareness about crime, the consequences of a crime, assuming the responsibility that all actions, be they good or bad, have consequences. Also, one of the aims of Sycamore Tree is the way to make a symbolic act of reconciliation, looking for healing, for forgiveness. So we talk a lot about reconciliation, restoration, reparations. That's the focus.
I was very defensive at first. I didn't want to come back after my first time. The program here is very good. The facilitators are excellent. The people are put at ease. There's a good amount of people. Fortunately, I was able to get through it, and now we work hard. Now we have to rebuild what we lost. By now, about 90% of the people we left have come back. At last, people have a dignified place to call their own.
My name is Maria Gonzalez, and I used to live in El Porvenir community in Aquitania. I had 8 siblings, but back when I was young, there was just 2 of us. There were a lot of ELN, the National Liberation Army guerrilla, visible, and I used to study, but when you see so many people in that group, you also want to join them, and the truth is I decided to join them at 15. I got into the group, but the training was very, very hard. You had to march a huge amount and spend a lot of time hungry, especially on operations. And when you eat, it's if you got the chance, but otherwise you just have to skip it. I went hungry many, many times.
Thank you for visiting the Room of Never Again. While the government continues to work on the FARC's transition back into civil society, the Prison Fellowship of Colombia is rolling out these programs across the country, building a path towards peace, one session at a time.
Restorative community. Restorative communities. Restorative Communities is a program that